Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Tales of Herding God Part 249 based on novel. So let's start. Wang Muran's cultivation had advanced at a godly speed during this period. When the paths, skills, and divine arts of eternal peace merged with the cultivation system of Supreme Emperor Heaven, this allowed people with outstanding talent to improve even more, and Wang Muran was one of the top-notch ones among these talents. In addition to how eternal peace was very advanced in paths, skills and divine arts, all of the schools and academies had basically been able to learn all of the techniques and divine arts in eternal peace. Even the paths, skills, and divine arts of Supreme Emperor Heaven had been refined and polished, and the experts of Supreme Emperor Heaven were especially there to teach and explain. Wang Muran had spent all his time and spirit during these 2 years to combine and comprehend all of the complicated techniques in Little Jade Capital. He had a huge advancement, and whenever he made his move, his body movement was as fast as lightning and his divine arts were rapid like rolling thunder. Every single move of his has an unbelievably strong power. Lu Qianzhong used what he had learned these few days to block 4 moves, but he couldn't gain the upper hand. He frowned slightly, and his divine arts suddenly changed, becoming extraordinarily strange, as he stretched his hands out to smack repeatedly at him. When he struck out with his first palm, Wang Muran's primordial spirit was smacked out of his body, but Wang Muran was able to pull it back into his body by force. When he struck out his second palm, Wang Muran's primordial spirit had vibrated out of his body, and this time, the distance was even further. Lu Qianzhong stretched his hand to form a stroke, and a pitch-black crack suddenly appeared behind Wang Muran. Just as his primordial spirit was about to fall into the crack, Wang Muran shouted, and his body moved back rapidly to collide with his primordial spirit. His corporeal body and primordial spirit then merged into one, and he flipped backward as he soared into the sky, avoiding the crack flawlessly. He landed beside True God Pang Yu with a bewildered face. Lu Qianzhong didn't chase after him, and he even gave a compliment. "Your abilities aren't bad. You're the first one to force me to use my true technique and divine arts." Wang Muran calmed his pounding heart. He said to Shu Xing Hua, "That's 5 moves. It's your turn." Shu Xing Hua's gaze flickered. He moved past the crowd and walked towards Lu Qianzhong and said, "If I go up, I might just need 1 or 2 moves. It's either I win, or I lose." Suddenly, his footsteps became extremely heavy, and the ground below his feet would tremble continuously each time his step landed down. Lotus flowers would appear and gradually bloom, and their pistils swayed gently as they burst forth with all kinds of runes. He walked forward while scattering the lotus flowers behind him. More and more footsteps landed down, and more lotuses appeared behind him. After walking over a dozen steps, the surroundings had already turned into a lotus world. The runes bursting forth from the flower pistils arranged themselves, forming a void surrounded by these runes. Inside the void was a world that contained the fragrance of flowers. Lu Qianzhong's face became grim. Shu Xing Hua's divine arts had already formed a system, and the void world behind him contained divine arts that were transforming continuously. This made him unable to see what move Shu Xing Hua was trying to execute. This was because the void world was constructed with the most basic runes, and different arrangements of the basic runes would result in different divine arts. Therefore, it was impossible for Lu Qianzhong to see what divine art he was trying to execute in his void world. He's executing a great divine art right away. Dao Master revealed a look of amazement and said in a low voice, "Senior brother Wang, senior brother Shu's attainments in divine arts have already surpassed both of us." Wang Muran snorted. "If I were to comprehend and fuse all of the techniques in Little Jade Capital, I won't be any inferior to him." Dao Master Lin Xian couldn't resist saying, maybe you should consult Cult Master Qin. Cult Master Qin is known as the king of junk in the dark. He cultivates his technique, sows his technique, and patches it here and there. After changing it, he can cultivate for 3 years and then he will patch it again, and cultivate for another 3 years. I've heard he had constructed a model of a human body technique, so it should suit you very well. Right at this moment, Shu Xing Hua's divine art burst forth. It was strikingly radiant and dazzling in that instant. The void world behind him poured out, and the lotus flowers swayed gently in the wind as the runes changed rapidly. Lu Qianzhong stepped back, and vast darkness suddenly appeared behind him as though darkness had descended on great ruins. The darkness had just drowned him out. Shu Xinghua's heart was shocked as he could no longer find Lu Qianzhong's figure where the darkness had shrouded. That darkness was like another layer of space that was eroding his vital qi, divine arts, and corporeal body. It was seeping into his body and tainting his primordial spirit. His divine arts struck into the darkness, and the power released was unrestrained and reckless. However, it was soon absorbed by the darkness. Shu Xing Hua moved back, and as he stepped back, he smacked a palm behind him. His 5 fingers trembled and instead, images of palms and fingers filled the sky behind him. The palm markings were like mountains and flowing river, while the heart of the palm was like the sky and the land, and the images on the fingers were mountain peaks. Lu Qianzhong suddenly appeared behind him. He seemed to be formed by black-colored sand in the darkness, and he passed through Shu Xinghua's divine arts and smacked him in the back behind his heart. Shu Xinghua grunted and fell forward. A gate opened up in the darkness and revealed a dark space. In the space, there was a monster that was waiting at the gate, and it poked at Shu Xinghua with a military fork. Shu Xinghua put his palms together, and the void world suddenly closed. All of a sudden, a heavenly deluge of petals flew around and drowned him out. When the military fork stabbed out from the gate and into the empty world, it missed its mark as a petal landed on the fork. Shu Xinghua had disappeared along with the void world. A voice cried out loud, "It's another pseudo-overlord body." Lu Qianzhong returned to his stance, and the darkness immediately retreated. He frowned slightly and looked towards the source of that sound. At the same time, Shu Xinghua's body suddenly appeared as though he had walked out from the depths of space. His complexion was slightly pale, and he also looked towards the source of the voice. The gates of Li City opened up, and they saw Qin Mu riding a formidable-looking dragon Qilin with a pleased look on his face. He was about to gallop and test his dragon Qilin's speed when he shouted, "Pai, giddy up." The dragon Qilin replied unpleasantly, "Cult Master, I'm a dragon Qilin, not a horse. Also, don't call me by my real name. Be careful of that Pangong Tso. He might hear it and use it to assassinate me." The gait of the dragon Qilin was extremely fast, and his feet left behind a trail of fire. Before his voice could even travel over, he had already carried Qin Mu to Pang Yu's side and stopped steadily in his tracks. Only then did his voice reach everyone's ears. Qin Mu grinned. "My efforts these few days aren't wasted. Senior Brother Shu, Dao Master, Senior Brother Wang, you are all here. Look, isn't my fatty dragon awe-inspiring and breathtaking?" Wang Muran pouted and didn't say anything. The big deer beside him scoffed, "Yes, how awe-inspiring and breathtaking. If he can maintain this body shape for 3 days, I'll pluck down my horns and stuff them up my nostrils." "You." The dragon Qilin stared hard at him with an angry gaze. Qin Mu didn't mind his words as his gaze landed on Lu Qianzhong. He said gravely, "Village Chief Shaw is brilliant. He's right. Once the overlord body appears, all kinds of pseudo-overlord bodies would come out to steal my destiny and become the true overlord body. Brother Shu, I'm not saying it's you, so don't take my words to heart." Brother Wang, shut up. You aren't the overlord body. You aren't even a pseudo-overlord body. Lu Yinxiu, Kuei Qingpei, and the rest looked very hard at Qin Mu before asking in a hushed voice, "Respectable king, who is this arrogant youth who is riding some unknown creature?" Fu Riluo smirked and said, "Doesn't Mingdu have life and death book? Would Brother Lu know once you shine the book at him?" Lu Yinxiu hesitated and said with a smile, "Oh well. I shall let everyone experience it for yourself." After saying this, he took out a scroll and gently unraveled it to reveal a thin piece of paper, which gave off a metal glint. Lu Yinxiu shone this piece of paper at Qin Mu. His excitement couldn't be contained as his body trembled slightly. "I have traveled far and wide searching for him, only to find him so easily here. So, his Qin Fengqing." Lu Yinxiu was overjoyed and said with a smile, "This is quite an unexpected harvest. Respectable king, you must have been admiring the life and death book of the celestial heavens for quite a long time, right? I rarely take it out, so here you are. You can admire it." Fu Riluo was moved. He hurriedly received it with both hands and examined it in detail. He had been coveting life and death book for a long time. It was a treasure of the celestial heavens and Yudu. To be specific, the life and death book of the celestial heavens was imitating Yudu. Even though the life and death book of Yudu didn't have many functions, the life of death book has numerous functions that were very powerful. The life and death books of the celestial heavens were made by Black Deity. The techniques and divine arts of Mingdu had come from Yudu, and yet, Mingdu had surpassed Yudu. Fu Riluo used life and death book to shine around everyone, and no matter who got shone upon, the figure of that person would appear on the paper with their corresponding name. Truly a wonderful treasure. Fu Riluo was full of praises. The celestial heavens uses this treasure to control the life and death of a person. I've once heard of a devil god called Shaman God Kuei. His abilities aren't high, but he had used life and death book to wipe out numerous gods of founding emperor era. Lu Yinxiu took this life and death book and said leisurely, "The power of life and death book far surpasses your imagination. Mingdu makes life and death books, and one of them landing in the hands of Shaman God Kuei is akin to casting pearls before the swine. Even my Mingdu doesn't have much of this kind of treasure. Swallowing Supreme Emperor Heaven will have to rely on the effect of this life and death book." Just as he was explaining, he suddenly noticed Qin Mu, who was riding an unknown creature, taking out a treasured scroll and unrolling it to shine at them. The smile on Lu Yinxiu's face froze, as his gaze landed on the thing in Qin Mu's hands. That scroll was indeed life and death book. He couldn't be wrong. Lu Yinxiu, Kuei Qingpei, Fu Yanqi, Lu Qianzhong, Qin Mu read out their names one by one. Lu Yinxiu and the rest of the gods from Mingdu were shaken. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. There were so few life and death books, so how did Qin Mu have one? When did the life and death book of the celestial heavens become like cabbages on the roadside? Could it be that anyone he met has a life and death book? Could the people of Supreme Emperor Heaven have one of them? Lu Li smiled smugly, and didn't tell them the truth. She thought to herself, his life and death book is from Shaman God Kuei. I got his name from Zhu Huang with difficulty, and you guys dare to steal my credit. Serves you right. Lu Yinxiu originally planned to use life and death book to deal with the gods and divine arts practitioners of Supreme Emperor Heaven. However, after seeing Qin Mu taking out a life and death book, he was now having second thoughts. Qin Mu kept his life and death book and asked Lu Qianzhong, "You are here to kill me?" Lu Qianzhong was slightly puzzled as he looked at him. Lu Yinxiu said softly, "Junior brother, he is Qin Fengqing." Lu Qianzhong smirked. "I'm here to seize you. I'm not interested in killing you. It's indeed the indescribable functional activities of qi that tangle us up together. Wait here for a moment. After saying this statement, Qin Mu rode the dragon Qilin back into Li City, leaving a trail of fire. His speed was so fast that everyone was dumbfounded. Wang Muran saw a huge deer beside him and asked softly, "Can you run that fast?" The big deer was also shocked. He shook his head and replied, "I can't." However, his endurance can't make it. Besides, he's greedy, so he will definitely gorge himself on a lot of food and become a pig once again. I'll run faster and further than him in no time. While he was saying this, the dragon Qilin had already rushed out from Li City, and there was now an elder with no limbs on his back. Qin Mu pointed at Lu Qianzhong and said, "Village chief, this is the overlord body from Mingdu." "You're right. There's indeed a pseudo-overlord body that has come to find me." When he was fighting with pseudo-overlord body Shu Xing Hua, he almost killed Shu Xing Hua. The divine art he had used was similar to Gate of Heaven influence, but it's also different. That's why I think he's a pseudo-overlord body. The elder without 4 limbs looked at Lu Qianzhong and said calmly, "Why would I lie to you? But you must be careful. There will be more and more pseudo-overlord bodies from now on. The chi activities between pseudo-overlord bodies would be linked, and they wouldn't know that the others are also pseudo-overlord bodies. However, he would seize the opponent's destiny to strengthen themselves. If Shu Xing Hua got killed by him, this Lu Qianzhong would receive Shu Xing Hua's destiny, and his abilities would greatly increase. You would be in danger by then." That elder had quite the confidence, those weren't empty words. If you can kill him, you can also strengthen your destiny as the overlord body. Qin Mu took out a tiny booklet and wrote these words down. He said with a smile, "No matter how much the pseudo-overlord bodies fight each other for destiny, they can never be a true overlord body. They are inferior to me." After saying this, he turned back and returned again to Li City with a trail of fire behind him, sending that elder back into the city. Lu Qianzhong and the rest felt the absurdity of the situation. He thought to himself, the divine art I used to defeat Shu Xing Hua was clearly Dark Gate of Mingdu, so how is it Gate of Heaven influence? Also, how does cultivating Dark Gate of Mingdu become the evidence for differentiating between an overlord body and a pseudo-overlord body? This is clearly a divine art from my Mingdu. What's more, how do I not know what an overlord body is? What's the matter with chi activity guiding everyone together? Suddenly, the dragon Qilin sprinted back with Qin Mu once again. He was truly as fast as lightning as he went back and forth, making everyone envious. Isn't this strange beast too fast? Qin Mu was about to say something when a heart-gripping aura came from the sky. Most of the gods raised their heads to look and saw a huge star floating past the sky of Supreme Emperor Heaven. The star wasn't too far from the land of Supreme Emperor Heaven, and it looked 4 to 5 times larger than the moon. Its speed was also very fast. Qin Mu's heart stirred slightly. That's the abnormal star of God Kai Shi. It has barged into Supreme Emperor Heaven from Lufu Heaven. In that case, the people that have moved from the floating world have all arrived. The barrier between Luofu Heaven and Supreme Emperor Heaven was thin and fragile, and this abnormal star had just broken through the world barrier, leaving huge pieces of shattered space that were like glazed glass. When sunlight reflected off of them, they radiated multicolored rays that were mesmerizing. The abnormal star was also increasing its speed, and it was evident that it was about to crash through the world barrier of Supreme Emperor Heaven and Eternal Peace, descending directly into the sky of the latter. In the sky, on the abnormal star, gods with 3 heads and 6 arms flew out. There were 1,000 and more of them that flew in front of the abnormal star, smashing forward with divine arts. In an instant, the sky above Supreme Emperor Heaven was shattered by these 1,000 gods with brute force. The huge star was now gradually entering the space and traveling into eternal peace. As the sky squeezed and shattered into pieces, by the gravity of this star, a thick beam of light suddenly burst forth from Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge, beaming straight into the sky. The light was very intense. Once it hit the sky, it burst forth and formed cloud-shaped objects that spread out in all directions. The flowing light in the sky slowly descended like white ink in water. From one's gaze, the speed of the light descending might be languid, but it was actually extremely fast. That was Spirit Energy. Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge was used to establish an energy passageway between Supreme Emperor Heaven and Eternal Peace, and when the star squeezed into the world of Eternal Peace, a portion of Eternal Peace's energy had shifted over through the bridge, preserving the energy balance. The star that was migrating over this time had several thousand gods and several million people. Therefore, the energy shifting over was extremely violent and was about to surpass the limits of the Mutual Shift Bridge. Meanwhile, in Li City, the vibrations coming from the Mutual Shift Bridge caused the ground to shake violently. When he saw all this, Qin Mu's expression changed slightly. Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge was forged by him and Senior Tiger, so he knew the limits of the bridge very well. If the gods of the floating world all migrated at the same time, it would definitely surpass the threshold. In that case, the Mutual Shift Bridge would definitely explode. If the Mutual Shift Bridge were to explode, then Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Passageway would close down. The star would then be sliced into two by the closing world barrier. One half would remain in Supreme Emperor Heaven while the other half would remain in Eternal Peace. Not only that, but the people on the abnormal star would most probably die and only a few would be able to survive. These floating world guys are too barbaric. Qin Mu hurriedly slapped the dragon Qilin, and they immediately soared into the sky with flames under his feet. His voice rang out from above as he said, "Lu Qianzhong, we will fight another day. You want to escape from me?" Lu Qianzhong's eyes lighted up, and countless black feathers appeared around his body, turning him into a black-winged Garuda. With a bird beak and a human face, he wore a pointed Garuda crown. When he spread his wings, they could cover an area of several miles, and they swept winds in all directions whenever he flapped. Lu Qianzhong skyrocketed upwards. As his wings flapped, black wind filled the sky as he rushed towards the dragon Qilin. His speed was actually slightly faster than the dragon Qilin. After the two of them flew out, Qi Jiui, Zhehuali, Shu Xing Hua, Dao Master Lin Xian, and the rest chased after them. Their speed varied. The fastest one was Qi Jiui. His body transformed into a 9-headed phoenix, and he flapped his wings away. He was even quicker than Lu Qianzhong. The next was Shu Xing Hua, who brought out a lotus with each step. His figure appeared and disappeared. His footsteps weren't fast, but whenever he stepped on a lotus flower, he would vanish and reappear a distance away where another lotus flower bloomed. Among all of them, Zhehuali's speed was the slowest. Every step he took was exactly the same, and this restricted his speed instead. True God Pang Yu was worried about everyone's safety, so he rose into the sky. He was about to follow them when a chi activity held him back. True God Pang Yu's body froze. He landed down from mid-air, not daring to turn around. Right at this moment, he saw a depressed man walking towards him, and True God Pang Yu instantly felt that the chi activity that held him back was gradually subsiding. He knew that this man was the one who had helped him earlier, and this made him at ease. Lu Yinsu slightly frowned as he looked at Life and Death book. His eyes suddenly lighted up and he smiled. "So, it's Prince Qin Mu of Jade Brightness Palace. How interesting. Jade Brightness Palace's Prince Qin Wu." True God Pang Yu's heart trembled. He looked at First Ancestor while crying out, "You are still alive." First Ancestor's face dimmed. The reason why he had never met with Pang Yu was because he didn't want to see the gods of founding Emperor Celestial Heavens. He had always carried a pang of guilt in his heart. However, he had no choice but to reveal himself now. His identity couldn't be kept a secret anymore. Lu Yunxiu's gaze flickered, and he said with a smile, "It's good for these younger generations to fight among themselves. Would Prince Qin Mu like to take a look at this unforeseen event?" First Ancestor said dryly, "All right." After saying so, he turned and walked towards Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge. The moment he took a step, 1,000 miles of land suddenly shrunk and walked towards them. True God Pang Yu and the rest didn't move, and they were suddenly 1,000 miles away. Confusion was evident on their faces. First Ancestor's step brought him precisely where Qin Mu had ridden the dragon Qilin to. In the sky, Lu Qianzhong flapped his wings and flew above the dragon Qilin. With his sharp claws grasping downwards, he grabbed at Qin Mu and the dragon Qilin. His claws were lethally sharp, and they were covered with strange scales that were gleaming with black light. The veins in the center of the scales appeared strange, as though they were blinking eyes. Lu Yunxiu, Fu Riluo, Lu Li, and the rest followed First Ancestor, and they raised their heads to look. Qin Mu's furious voice rang out, "I said we will fight another day. I have something important to deal with, so I don't have the time to fight with you." Boom. A loud explosion came from midair, and Lu Qianzhong bounced up. Those claws weren't effective as Qin Mu was able to block them, but the dragon Qilin was struck down from the air, reducing his speed drastically. "Son of Yudu, forget about escaping." Lu Qianzhong pounced over once more, and Qin Mu blocked him again, forcing him back. Again, the dragon Qilin was pushed down, and his speed was reduced even more. Lu Qianzhong did it once again with a delighted face. "Are you a coward? You don't dare to face me at all. A son of God was actually forced by me to escape to eternal peace." Qin Mu suddenly got down from the dragon Qilin, and he said solemnly, "Fatty dragon, go ahead and stabilize the Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge. Brother Shu, you guys also head over to the bridge and help me stabilize the runes on the altar first." The dragon Qilin followed his order and rushed towards the Mutual Shift Bridge. Shu Xing Hua didn't stop, and just followed after the dragon Qilin. "Brother Qin, be careful. This person's abilities aren't weak, and his divine arts are even stranger. I have never seen this kind of divine arts before. His darkness divine arts are similar to the darkness in Great Ruins. Similar to the darkness of Great Ruins." Qin Mu's heart trembled slightly as he revealed a look of disbelief. Lu Qianzhong folded his wings and transformed back into a human form. He said with a smirk, "The darkness of Great Ruins is set up by my master black deity of Mingdu after all." Qin Mu nodded and said in a detached voice, "Execute a divine art of Mingdu and show me." Lu Qianzhong granted his request as darkness poured out around him. It was extremely intense. It instantly covered over dozens of miles, and his body seemed to be located in another world away from Supreme Emperor Heaven. Without any warning, the black figure whooshed and rushed at Qin Mu. Qin Mu's face remained indifferent as he stared at the figure pouncing at him in the darkness. Lu Qianzhong seemed to be located in another space that could avoid all the divine art attacks from the mortal world. At the same time, a door suddenly appeared behind Qin Mu, and there seemed to be a monster that was roaring without a sound. Its thick hands grabbed a military fork and swung back to accumulate strength, before stabbing at Qin Mu, who was just outside the gate. "I see." Two heads suddenly appeared on Qin Mu's neck, followed by 4 arms popping out under his armpits. His sword pellet rang and separated into 3. The so-called Mingdu should be the same as Fengdu, so it's all a part of Yudu. Your divine art. Qin Mu took down the willow leaf on the heart of his brows, and it also separated into 3 like his 3 heads. They stuck onto the heart of his brows and continued to seal it. He raised his 3 arms. All of his index fingers were stuck beside his middle fingers, as they tapped on the eyes in front of the heart of his brows before stabbing. Has been seen through by me. In the sky, darkness shrouded dozens of miles, and a figure could faintly be seen moving inside. Suddenly, 3 trails of sword light pierced through the darkness, and shot off in different directions. The 3 trails of sword light lit up the darkness, and gave everyone sight in the darkness. Dao Master Lin Xian, Wang Muran and the rest had just arrived, while THG had already reached the darkness a step ahead of them. As for Zhe, he was still rushing over. Everyone raised their heads to take a look. Under the shine of the sword light, the darkness was like a hazy veil. There seemed to be countless fine black spots floating in the air. In the illuminated darkness, Lu Qianzhong faced the sword light and rushed at Qin Mu, only to get pierced through the chest. When Shu Xing Hua and Lu Qianzhong fought, both of them had similarly used great divine arts. Even though his void world was incomparably breathtaking, Lu Qianzhong could just pass through his great divine arts. Any divine arts from Shu Xing Hua couldn't even touch him, and Shu Xing Hua got injured instead. Lu Qianzhong seemed to be able to pass through all skills and not be hurt. Yet the sword light pierced through Lu Qianzhong, and caused blood to splatter out from the back of his heart. Lu Qianzhong couldn't help being stunned. Another sword light slashed towards his head. And at that moment, everyone looked behind Qin Mu. Qin Mu's third sword defended against the military fork, but since the fork had 3 prongs, it only managed to shatter the middle prong. The other 2 prongs stabbed into Qin Mu's body. The fork was then pulled back forcefully, dragging Qin Mu into the dark gate of Mingdu. Crap! Everyone had a drastic change in expression. When Qin Mu got pulled into the gate of darkness, the incomparably strong-looking devil god revealed a terrifying, wicked smile. Suddenly, a sword light appeared from the sky, and just as the second sword light had severed Lu Qianzhong's head, that sword light also severed the devil god's head. Surprisingly, the 2 incidents happened in the same instance. Lin Xian, THG and the rest didn't expect such a change. The devil god behind the gate appeared incomparably powerful, but it had its head severed by Qin Mu. What puzzled them even more was that Qin Mu had clearly only executed 3 moves of opening calamity. Where did the 4th sword that severed the head of the devil god come from? At the same time, the chest of that devil god exploded open, revealing a bloody hole. Another sword light pierced through the back of the devil god, sending blood out the front. The gate slowly closed and nobody could see the situation inside the gate. It drove them crazy, leaving them with even more questions. Before they could get an answer for the 4th sword light, a 5th sword light had suddenly appeared. What was the logic behind it? Suddenly, a pitch-black gate appeared to be standing tall in the darkness. It was Qin Mu's gate of heaven influence. The gate opened, and Qin Mu walked out, leaving Mingdu with a head in his hand. Behind him, the darkness gradually dispersed and revealed Lu Qianzhong's body. The head on this body had disappeared. No one had seen when Lu Qianzhong's head had fallen off. Qin Mu's 3 swords were opening calamity sword skill. The first move had severely injured Lu Qianzhong, the second move severed his head, and the third move was to defend against the attack from Mingdu. When he unleashed those 3 moves in the same instance, no one managed to see Lu Qianzhong's head fall from the sky. Yet, now Lu Qianzhong's head had clearly vanished. The devil god in Gate of Heaven influence is your original body. It isn't a true devil god, and only looks powerful. Qin Mu took out a bottle of dragon saliva and poured it on his wound. He said to the head in his hands insipidly, "You hid in Mingdu to attack me from Mingdu. To the people of Supreme Emperor Heaven, you are like a shadow that couldn't be touched. That was why you defeated Shu Xing Hua, because he doesn't understand the great ruins in detail, and he doesn't know much about the spells of Yudu. Your abilities are even inferior to THG, and you are just relying on the marvel of Mingdu's divine art. However, a person like me who was born in Yudu and raised in the great ruins, knows many ways for you to die. The head was the head of the devil god, but at that moment, it was gradually transforming. The malicious bone spikes shrank back into it, and even the messy hair gradually returned to normal. His appearance changed back into Lu Qianzhong's appearance, and his eyes were still wide open. They were staring at Qin Mu as if he could hear what he was saying. Qin Mu threw Lu Qianzhong's head down, and the headless corpse also fell from the sky. However, I'm in a rush for time, so I chose the simplest way. Qin Mu said with a calm expression, I might look as if I'm attacking you, but my attacks had already entered Mingdu to attack your true body. I severed your arteries and the veins of your heart with my first sword, destroying your qi and blood. My second sword severed your head, and my third sword was for blocking your attack. However, your abilities are indeed extraordinary, and you managed to injure me. Qi Jiui wasn't standing far away. When he saw Qin Mu injured, he was tempted to make a move. He was slightly stunned when he heard what Qin Mu said, and he revealed a smile. He still views me highly and knows I'm stronger than senior brother Lu Qianzhong. He didn't take the chance to attack Qin Mu. With his current abilities, he could make the injured Qin Mu stay, but he didn't make a move. Lu Qianzhong was his senior brother, but he had originally cultivated with Southern Heaven Red deity Qi Xiaoyu, and only became an apprentice to Mingdu's Black deity. The time he had spent in Mingdu was shorter, so he wasn't close with the senior brothers there. Qin Mu suppressed his injuries and dispersed his 3 heads and 6 arms. He pasted the willow leaf back on his head, and sprinted straight towards the Spirit Energy Mutual Shift Bridge. No one in the surroundings followed after him. They stood on the spot to think. So that's it. There were only 3 swords after all. Dao Master Lin Xian said with a blank expression, it's just that these 3 swords are too brilliant, and as a result, it was as though there were 5 swords. When did Cult Master Qin's sword skills reach such a high level? The other youths also had the same thoughts. The 3 swords from Qin Mu looked simple, but they were simple moves derived from complicated moves. Just these 3 simple swords had given them an endless aftertaste of shock. Not many people could see how the 3 swords had become 5 swords, but for those who could see the wonder of it, they were even more stunned. And at that moment, Zhehuali finally arrived, and his footsteps were still incomparably stable. Every step he took was of equal distance. It's over. Zhehuali looked around and saw everyone standing here. However, Qin Mu and Lu Qianzhong were no longer there, and he hurriedly asked Qi Jiui, Brother Qi, who won? Qi Jiui said helplessly, Senior brother Lu Qianzhong died in battle. Zhehuali was astonished and asked, what move did Cult Master Qin use to kill him? How did he die? Qin Jiui was even more helpless. It's hard to explain. Cult Master Qin seems to have cultivated some remarkable technique that allowed him to transform into a 3-headed and 6-armed form. Furthermore, his abilities are stronger than before. He executed Opening Calamity 3 times. Zhehuali's tiger eyes were wide open as he solemnly said, 3 heads and 6 arms. It looks like his abilities have risen again. I'll have to work hard as well. I will definitely nurse a grievance with my demon knife. Lu Yinxiu frowned slightly and looked at First Ancestor Human Emperor, who was in front of him. He had wanted to save Lu Qianzhong just now. Unfortunately, the aura of the strong practitioner in front of him suppressed him, and he didn't dare to make a move. Prince Qin Wu's battle power is extremely high. He exclaimed to himself. However, with him alone, he won't be able to stop this general trend. It will crush him into pieces. Kuei Qingpei said with a low voice, Senior brother Lu, junior brother. Lu Yinxiu said with a low voice, Qin Wu suppressed us so we couldn't save him, so junior brother could only die. However, This son of Yudu is different from what I had imagined. Do you have the confidence to capture him? Fu Yanqi's gaze flickered, and he said, Senior brother can be at ease. Junior brother Qi failed, lost master's treasure and couldn't capture him, but to us, it's effortless to capture him. Lu Yinxiu said with a smile, in that case, we can stop observing the techniques and divine arts of Supreme Emperor Heaven. Respectable King Fu Riluo, Provincial Governor Lu Li, we will return now. Fu Riluo asked in astonishment, you are going back now? Lu Qianzhong has just died, so aren't you going to take revenge for him? Senior brothers sure are magnanimous. Lu Yinxiu said, Lu Qianzhong's soul will return to Mingdu and reincarnate. Master won't let him die just like this. We are only returning to the devil territory, and not back to Mingdu. Once the remaining survivors of Crimson Light reach eternal peace, it will be the end of Supreme Emperor Heaven. Fu Riluo was slightly stunned. There were only 4 visitors from Mingdu this time, and Qin Mu killed one of them. How was Lu Yinxiu so confident that the 3 of them could help the devil race rule over Supreme Emperor Heaven? Because of the pact of Earth Count between Saint Woodcutter and Fu Riluo couldn't mobilize the devil army to assist them. Lu Li was a provincial governor of Yudu, so she only listened to the orders from the celestial heavens and not Mingdu. Lu Yinxiu also couldn't order her around. The power that Lu Yinxiu could use was merely from the 3 of them. Qi Jui watched as Lu Yinxiu and the rest leaving, and his heart tightened. He said with a low voice, Jahwali, if you can trust me, immediately follow me through the spirit energy mutual shift bridge into the great ruins. Jahwali's heart was astonished, and he was about to inquire more when Qi Jui had already entered the spirit energy mutual shift bridge 1 step ahead of him. Beside the spirit energy mutual shift bridge, Qin Mu, Shu Xing Hua and the dragon Qilin were surrounding a huge sacrificial altar. They were strengthening the sacrificial altar and fixing the broken runes, trying to maintain the spirit energy mutual shift bridge from falling apart. In the sky, the abnormal star was already halfway through, and the spirit energy mutual shift bridge was barely holding on. Vibrations left the ground in a radius of several hundred miles riddled with thousands of ravines that looked like a spider web. The sacrificial altar was unstable, and the mountain rocks on it seemed like they could crumble into dust any moment. Qin Mu frowned. Dao Master Lin Xian and the rest hurried over to help strengthen the sacrificial altar, but it didn't help. The sacrificial altar was still trembling continuously, and the energy coming from eternal peace was becoming boundless, as it spread across the sky. And at this moment, the sun was extinguished as night fell on Supreme Emperor Heaven. However, the sky was bright like never before, all because of the light coming from the spirit energy pouring in from eternal peace. The star slowly disappeared bit by bit. Suddenly, First Ancestor rose into the sky and landed on the star. Only then did the speed of the star gradually slow down. Qin Mu let out a sigh of relief and hurriedly strengthened the sacrificial altar. Lufu Heaven. Magnificent altars stood tall on the world. On the sacrificial altar, the gods of the great ruins stood tall and protected it. For the past 2 years, they had guarded the place and had forced back numerous waves of attacks from the devil race. A crack in space opened up in front of one sacrificial altar. 3 devil gods walked out, and they were Lu Yinxiu, Fu Yanqi, and Kuei Qingpei. The land of the devil race has given birth to many heroes, and how many people have been buried on this land? Lu Yinxiu sighed ruefully and took out the life and death book. He gently unscrolled it and said leisurely, in the long and drawn-out years, many inspiring and tragic heroes have been sent off. Are you still around? His voice suddenly became resounding, and he said, with orders from Mingdu's black deity, I command you to wake up and fight for me. The life and death book floated into the sky, and a light shone brightly like a mirror inside the book was reflecting light. Whoosh! The life and death book flew around in Luofu Heaven, and wherever the light shone names would appear on the page, and countless names kept replacing the ones before. The book flew around Luofu heaven at a speed the naked eye couldn't see, and lit up every inch of ground. The god from the great ruins on that sacrificial altar was astonished, and his gaze fell on Lu Yinxiu and the rest. He asked solemnly, "Who are you to create a ruckus here?" Lu Yinxiu and the rest folded their arms and stood there quietly without paying him any attention. Suddenly, the ground split apart, and white skeletons wearing worn-out metal armor began to crawl out from underground. They stood up, eyes blazing with ghostly flames, and stood there without moving. Whoosh, whoosh. The sound of bones rattling rang out, as every inch of Luofu heaven churned. Countless skeletons dug themselves out from the ground and stood up. A devil god that was still decomposing crawled out from underground. It opened its mouth to spew out intense devil qi, as though it was roaring silently at Lu Yinxiu and the rest. The violent devil qi bombarded their faces, and caused their skin to crease up. Their hair and gowns were blown backward, covering their faces with murky saliva that was green and purple. Afterward, tens of thousands of skeletons formed an endless army, and the devil qi seemed to pressure down on the sky that had collapsed. The sight was so gloomy that it was terrifying. The god of the great ruins on that sacrificial altar was astonished and gripped the divine weapon in his hand tightly. Lu Yinxiu raised his hand, and the life and death book flew to him. He said with a smile, "Junior brothers, make a guess. How long will I need to get rid of these remaining survivors of founding emperor era on these sacrificial altars?" Boom. Countless skeletons flooded towards the sacrificial altars. The skeletons filled the heaven and earth, completely drowning the sacrificial altar in seconds. Kuei Qingpei said with a smile, "Slightly faster than I had imagined." The skeletons invaded the sacrificial altars, and the gods of the great ruins that were guarding the altars couldn't withstand the attacks at all. They were torn apart by the skeletons of the devil gods that had rushed up. In the end, the sacrificial altars that Saint Woodcutter and the 24 gods had constructed to threaten Fu Riluo fell. Lu Yinxiu used less than an incense of time. Countless corpses of the devil race stood on the sacrificial altars and roared angrily in all directions. Lu Yinxiu handed the life and death book over to Kuei Qingpei, and said with a smile, "We shall see what junior brother Kuei does next." Kuei Qingpei laughed and executed the life and death book, which shone towards the sacrificial altar. The corpses of the devil race were bathed in light, and were incinerated instantly, activating all of the runes on the sacrificial altar. A blood sacrifice erupted right away. Natural disasters broke out across the entire Luofu heaven, as it started breaking down. Luofu heaven, which was in the process of being destroyed, brought a destructive force to smash onto Supreme Emperor Heaven's world barrier, heading towards Supreme Emperor Heaven. Heavenly teacher of the fake dynasty still isn't ruthless enough. If he was, he could have just used a blood sacrifice in Luofu Heaven, and used Luofu Heaven to collide into Supreme Emperor Heaven. Lu Yinxiu had his hands behind his back and smiled. However, I will still have to thank him for constructing these sacrificial altars. It saved us a lot of trouble. This video will end here.